Joining us now, Democratic Senator Tammy Duckworth of Illinois. She's a member of the Armed Services, Foreign Relations, Veterans Affairs, and Commerce Committees. She introduced the War Powers Resolution that didn't pass yesterday. Senator, thanks for taking the time. We are 48 days into this war. No change in the War Powers vote outcome. Are you surprised? All the polling shows this war is not popular with the American people.
I am not at all surprised because, unfortunately, my Republican colleagues care more about what Trump thinks of them than they do about the well-being of the American people and what their own constituents believe and feel. And frankly, it's a number of days into the war, but it's also 13 servicemen and women who've laid down their lives and hundreds more who've been wounded, and tens of billions of U.S. dollars, taxpayer dollars spent on this war of choice.
I want to get your thoughts on some comments the Joint Chiefs Chairman made at his briefing this morning. Watch.
In addition to this blockade, the Joint Force, through operations and activities in other areas of responsibility, like the Pacific area of responsibility under the command of Admiral Paparo, will actively pursue any Iranian-flagged vessel or any vessel attempting to provide material support to Iran.
General Kane there effectively saying the U.S. military will go after any vessel, no matter where they are, if they provide support to Iran. How are U.S. allies going to respond if potential operations happen in their waters?
Well, they're appalled, first off, with us attacking Iran out of the blue. And by the way, many of the U.S. forces that are currently in the Middle East right now were diverted away from their regular duty stations in the Indo-Pacific. And so Admiral Paparo is already operating down quite a large number of the troops that should be under his command who've actually been diverted into the Middle East. What we have here is a president who has pursued a war without thorough planning, has no idea what the end state is, and has shifting positions on whether or not this war is over. Has he achieved his objective? What exactly is that objective? One of the latest things that he said is that his objective is to open the Strait of Hormuz. Guess what? The Strait of Hormuz was already open before he attacked Iran. He has said he wants regime change, but he didn't explain to the American people that that regime change was for the worse. We now have a worse Ayatollah in Iran than that we had in the first place. This is an incoherent war that Trump cannot justify. And again, it's killed 13 of our troops, put thousands of Americans in danger, sent costs to the roof here at home, and now is spreading around the world, even into the Indo-Pacific. And really, it's making our allies very, very nervous about what exactly is the U.S. intention here.
The Republicans in the Senate still are backing the president in this effort. However, Republican Senator John Curtis of Utah did say earlier this month that he would not support ongoing military action beyond a 60-day window without congressional approval. Look, 60 days would be after the initial ceasefire deadline, and the president can extend the deadline 30 days, citing national security. Are you concerned what could happen if Congress waits to act?
Well, we're going to continue to bring up the War Powers Resolution every week through that 60-day mark and through the 90-day mark if necessary. And we're going to force our Republican colleagues to vote on this over and over again. And maybe at some point they will remember their oath of office, which is to defend the Constitution of the United States and seize back our power that we have here in Congress over the decision to go to war.
When you talk about bringing back that power, what is the answer? Where's the off-ramp? How does the U.S. get out of this war?
Well, that's for Donald Trump to answer, right? That's why we have the War Powers Resolution coming up for a vote, because what it does is it says he has to stop his actions in the Middle East, come to Congress in front of the American people, and explain why this war of choice is justified, and then also what the off-ramp is. And then we in Congress will have that debate for the American people to see, and we would then have a vote. Right now, we have a rogue president who's declaring war and attacking other nations without the consent of Congress and without any plan for how what he's doing there. I mean, all he's done is put in an Ayatollah that's worse than the previous one, taught Iran that it can close the Straits of Hormuz and start forcing people to pay $1 million per ship that's going through the Middle East, raised prices for Americans. You know, my farmers in Illinois, we're a farming state. This is planting season. My farmers have seen the cost of diesel fuel more than double. Their input costs have gone up by at least 30%. And the American people are going to be seeing those price increases well into the fall, well into harvest time, because it's going to take a long time for our economy to regain its footing after this action by the president.
Senator, before we go, a social media account affiliated with the Army posted a message honoring your service. This was over the weekend. It drew outrage from the right, that post, and eventually the whole account was taken down. And in response, an Army spokesperson told The Hill, quote, when this legacy account came to Army leadership's attention, we realized it was not directly managed by qualified Army personnel and was taken offline, just like the hundreds of accounts before. What's your reaction to this?
Yeah, I don't care if they're posting about me, but those hundreds of other accounts that the Trump administration have taken down include accounts that talked about the Tuskegee Airmen's heroic actions during World War II. There was, a page that talked about the Nisei Battalion, the 100th Battalion, the most decorated Army unit in Army history, Japanese Americans. This administration continues to try to politicize our military and erase the service of women and people of color. So, look, instead of politicizing our military, I wish Driscoll would focus on his job, making sure that he protects our soldiers and running the Army. And frankly, the Secretary should be working overtime to ensure the safety of shared airspace between Army and civilian aircraft, so we don't have another horrific crash like we did here in the capital region. We need to be protecting our service members from being arbitrarily fired or denied promotions by Secretary Hegseth. That's what I want him to be focused on. But to have an account honoring me taken down, that just puts me in the company of the Tuskegee Airmen and the Nisei Battalion. That's pretty good company to be keeping.